G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Space Tomato, and our special guest is Bored Gamer. How you doing, mate?
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
No worries. So I think this is just going to be a casual conversation with Bored, and I think I'll start it off by just asking, how did you get into Star Citizen? How did you kind of find it all?
I came from a background of just sort of catering and stuff, and then went into YouTube, and was sort of creating some random content on a variety of games. Got a bit popular with Diablo 3, and was looking for other games to cover. I'd seen the Kickstarter for Star Citizen, but I hadn't really backed it at that stage. One of my friends bought an Idris, and we were out in the pub, and I was chatting to him, and I was like, "What are you doing? What are you spending $1,000 on a ship? That's mad." Sort of chatting to him a bit for that, and then sort of did some research and saw there weren't many content creators on Star Citizen creating the sort of content that I would want. So I sort of tried to fill that box and made the content I wanted, and then it sort of grew from there, became relatively popular, and that was 8.5 years ago. So,
what does your friend now think that you have a javelin?
He has got rid of a large portion of his ships in a variety of ways, and he still has a good amount. I'm not sure what he'd think of I haven't seen him for a while. He's become pretty reclusive. I saw him last year at the pub. We didn't talk about Star Citizen, but maybe we should have. I will ask him next time.
Yeah, I mean, like he went and told his friend that he bought a ship for this game, and then 8 years later, his friend is like one of the biggest content creators for that game. That'd be an interesting conversation.
Similar thing with me. My housemate got me, like, he's the one that told me about Star Citizen when it was on Kickstarter, and he doesn't follow it at all, and I went right down the rabbit hole. So yeah, similar thing.
So a few of my other mates that were interested in the Star Citizen at the time have either some of them work for CIG now or have tried to work for CIG. And others are sort of like going into similar-ish games, but it's been a journey. It's been a journey for me and my friends, and I suppose they've seen me grow in the Star Citizen community from them knowing more about the game than me to it being very much the other way around now.
You mentioned. Sorry. You mentioned you had friends who were working at CIG and maybe had tried to work at CIG. Are you a little more connected with the gaming industry than just kind of your YouTube coverage? Like, do you know more people who work in the industry through your personal life?
So yeah, I know lots of people in lots of different sort of studios, including like the big ones like Blizzard and stuff. But lots of my friends have gone off into either start making their own games, getting involved with some other game studios. I was very popular. I was very active on the esports scene. I'm sort of getting involved with it rather than actually competing very early on, like 15 or so years ago. So.
And you mentioned before that you only spent about $3,500 on ships, which I think was rather kind of reserved for how long you've been here.
Yeah, I'm very much a proponent of get it in game. There's some stuff I want, and there's some stuff that I will buy for content purposes. Like it's sensible for me to have certain ships so I can make videos on them or whatever. But beyond that, I'm going to be playing the game a lot. It just seems ridiculous that I'd spend thousands of dollars on ships when I'm going to be getting duplicates of those ships in game as well, and lots of them. And yeah, I don't really want to overly skip certain elements of the game as well. So
yeah. But a lot of what we do here is to kind of give people bang for buck for the money they are spending. So yeah, I can get behind what you're saying there, 100%.
Would you prefer to try and get rid of your ships, or just have a second account that you could go on empty?
I would prefer to be efficient with my money, and that doesn't necessarily mean not spending and buying more ships. But that does mean that I don't want to be frivolous and just go, I'm going to buy all the ships because I can, lol.
Yeah. We have a thing here with the Fix My Fleet where we recommend people consolidate it into a bigger ship and earn down. So rather than having lots of little ships, you just have a big one and earn down. So yeah. I think the other thing, we'll talk about board games for a second here, because that's something else I share in common with you as board games. Did you find COVID stopped that very much? Because it did for me.
So it stopped my D&D group. We were in the middle of Descent to Avernus, which is the prelude to Baldur's Gate 3, the actual computer game. So we're in the middle of that campaign, and that delayed it by a year and a half. Campaign, and we only finished it like 2.5 months ago. Board game wise, I'm a massive board gamer. Quite literally, I love my board games. Don't play enough of them. COVID, it put a spanner in the works, but seems like a long time ago that was sort of paused everything in my life. But,
yes.
Yeah.
So I had Frosthaven Rock up the other day. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. I just gave one of my copies away to my mate.
Yep.
I bought a few.
Is there any? Can you give me some of your favorite board games that you've played? Like maybe I don't know, top 3.
Cthulhu Death May Die.
Recommend for other people to try maybe as well.
Yeah, so it depends on what sort of level they are as board gamers. There's some sort of entry level ones, which I'd say like Quacks of Quedlingberg. It's an absolutely fantastic one, which is it's very tactile. You put your hand in a bag to pull out sort of like parts of potions, and you keep on pushing your luck, and then building more parts of potions in your bag to try and get along this track. And if you do it wrong, you explode. It's quite fun. Nice entry level game. Some more cerebral type ones. I love things like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which are sort of like mysteries that you solve with a big party of people, and you can go to all these different locations, and you've got to try and work out what happened for a particular case, and then get annoyed as Sherlock Holmes had completed it several thousand steps earlier, and he's just like lol, idiots. Yeah. And there's dozens and dozens of board games that I sort of like. One second, I'm just gonna have a look behind me.
I like Settlers of Catan.
Big
or
fan
Shoots
of
and
Catan.
Ladders.
I've actually got
Old school.
a Starfarers of Catan behind me, but yeah, which is a space version.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Ark Nova is probably my favorite board game at the moment.
That's a very popular one at the moment. Yeah. I was just
like Ark Nova.
While you're away, Space was saying, did you hear what we said while you're away?
Yeah.
Because he's a big fan of Catan, and that's a really common one. Catan's a really good one. I've been playing
beginner friendly.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Dune Imperium. I don't know if you know that one. Game of the Year a
Is
couple
that
of years
the
ago.
deck building one?
Yeah, it's like half deck building, half worker placement. I'm a big fan of that one because there's a lot going on, and there's multiple ways you can win and backstab, and there's all this intrigue stuff. Very thematic to the movie and the books, if you know that. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, I could talk about board games for ages, but I don't think too many people are into them, unfortunately. Space, are you? Go ahead.
Oddly, I just want to say, so there was a content creator called Oliver East that used to do Star Citizen content.
Mm-hmm.
He started, he stopped doing Star Citizen content, but started a board game channel. And I've been talking to him recently about potentially doing board game content with him, oddly.
Awesome.
So
we could see a board game channel. That would be funny.
That was what the channel was originally supposed to be. It was supposed to be a cross between computer games and board games. But
He's talked about that a few times actually in the past. Like if you ever watch his Q&As, I always come on your. By the way, I don't know if you know I'm there, but I come on there and I ask you bizarre, weird questions, like when is there going to be the bald bean egg merchant and stuff like that. That those questions are all from me. Yeah.
But I get many odd questions. I do try and answer seriously most of the questions, even if they are weird or trolly.
Yes, I know you do. That's why I asked them.
Get creative with it.
Trying to get a rise out of you.
It's content.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, board games. I think the other thing I'll approach really quickly and carefully though is the other thing you and I share is we both have bipolar. And one of the things is like I wanted to ask is how does that affect your workflow? Because I know it affects mine. And like one of the things I've shared with our viewers is I have a really bad sleep pattern. So I'll get these massive bags under my eyes because I'm like forcing myself to stay awake and stuff like that to get shows done at a very set time. Do you find it affects your workflow very much, or is it not as debilitating as it is for me?
So over the last maybe probably since the amount of time I've been actually doing Star Citizen content, I've been managing myself a lot better, much better over the last 5 years. Anyway, so bipolar affects me. I'm pretty lucky. Mine's very manageable and quite easy to manage, as long as I sort of have a schedule and a routine.
Yeah.
I have mostly the higher end of mania, almost all the time. So I have to sort of suppress myself and calm myself down. With a lot of stuff, I get very excitable. I've got a very sort of addictive personality. Probably not best to go out drinking for too long periods of time because I will get quite drunk or go gambling or something like that. So I sort of try and stay away from those things and try and be a bit more sensible now. And I've sort of mellowed out a lot more in the last 5 years. When I'm sort of more depressive, I always know that I'm going to feel better. And that's sort of something that a lot of people that suffer from that sort of type of depression don't know. So that just immediately from an off point.
I can actually relate a lot to what you're saying. You kind of know you're in it, and you can kind of grab yourself and pull yourself out of it. Is that what I'm hearing? Because that's what it's like for me. I recognize the signs.
At very least, I go, I'm not going to feel like this for more than a few days. Well, I've just got to ride with it. Sometimes I would lay in bed for a day or something, just be like, woo, or cry at something that's I've got. A cat died in an anime, and I'll just be crying.
I'm relating to all of this. Like the weirdest shit that you'll cry at. Like it'll just trigger something.
Yeah, sometimes the cat in the anime is what sets you off.
Yeah, but it's
mate, no. Cats getting injured in any way, shape, or form, even if it's a cartoon or something, will cripple me.
Yeah. Sometimes you get these weird train of thoughts though, like something will happen and it'll kind of just set you on this path and it'll make you think of certain things. So yeah.
So I have that. I separate that into something else, which I suffer quite badly from, is anxiety. Now, I get quite bad anxiety loops. Like I was violently sick on a plane once.
I remember hearing this story.
I was worried I was going to be sick on a plane. So I was really badly sick. And I hate traveling. Sometimes I like to panic. I just go, oh God, this is going to be awful. I panic about just random stuff about like getting ill or doing my taxes wrong or just something really random, and then focus on that. And it becomes a terrible thing for like 2 weeks that I'm just like so super anxious and worried about until it's resolved. And it can be something tiny or it can be something massive. It is the same level of worry and pain. And it could be something like, I need to pay someone £30, or I'm owed £20 by someone.
Sounds like
it could be a billion different things.
A self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing. So
it certainly sort of goes in your brain, sort of loops around.
Have you found doing the YouTube, like for me, and I found doing the YouTube's given me a certain level of structure and purpose, and it's helped my mental state a lot. And I guess like the follow on from that is the Star Citizen community. Like I've met all these great people like Space and Paul and Badgers and Loken and all the other guys, and just like it's totally changed my life, the people I've met that I never would have met if I'd done this. So having the people around you, is that made a big difference, I guess is what I'm asking in a weird turn of phrase?
So the structure's good. I like to work constantly. Like I don't just run a YouTube channel. I do some of the bits and bobs as businesses as well. I just want to constantly be working. And when I'm not working, there's the potential of depression or anxiety. And if I'm not working and I'm not focused on something like that, I want to be playing a game with some of my mates or playing a board game or whatever, sort of planning something.
So I call that distracting myself. If I'm not distracting myself with something, my brain goes dark places. So that I don't know if that's the similar thing that you're explaining, but that's how mine is.
So I will now forcibly enjoy myself.
Exactly.
So I'll go, look, this is time for fun. I must have fun during this time. So I will play these games or organize these games to play or organize a holiday or whatever. And now, only in the last 2 years, I've been a bit better with traveling. And actually enjoy time off. Like I will go, I'll treat it as work. I'll go, this is your assignment to have fun and do these things while you're on holiday. I've got some time off.
It's a good thing to focus on.
Yeah. And knowing when to switch off and actually when to, enjoy yourself is important. It's one of the reasons that apparently content creators get burnt out. Is because they sort of don't know when to take a break and also keep on tracing
some balance.
Well, that's a really good segue then. How have you done so many videos that you do and not got burnout? So because the approach that you take and the approach that I have taken are kind of different. I've done the more kind of slow and steady approach where I do like one video a week, right? And I've done it just as long as you have almost. Actually, well, I kind of did two things in different ways, but that's a debatable thing. But I've done the slow and steady approach where you've done more the rapid fire approach. So how have you kind of kept up that momentum for all this time?
It's always something to talk about in Star Citizen. And as I said, I like to keep busy and I want to be working. I don't want to be bored. I literally don't want to be bored during the day. I need to have something to keep me busy. So that can be
despite the name.
Exactly. So one of the things is that I used to get quite bored of computer games pretty quickly as well, but that's pitted off quite a lot, and I've actually got a few games that I enjoy now. Like it's pretty much Star Citizen, Overwatch, and then any co-op survival game, and that's the sort of stuff I play.
That's so weird. I play heaps of co-op games. That's really weird. Anyway, I've been playing.
I would not have
Valheim recently. Again,
yeah, just completed a playthrough of Valheim again recently.
And we're about to spin up Eco as well again here on our Inforunners stuff. So if you want to come join us for that,
I think I'm done with Eco, and unless it's got some very interesting server settings.
There's a big patch coming real soon. Patch 10 is just around the corner. So
okay.
I would not have thought you were a Valorant, or sorry, not Valorant. Would you say Overwatch? Wouldn't have thought you were an Overwatch guy.
I get so a lot of people don't know exactly how stressy I can be at games. They they'll probably think I'm quite fun-loving. I'm not in Overwatch, I'll tell you that for nothing. And it's the accusations of. So I read this occasionally on the Star Citizen forums where people have been accused of cheating or doing stuff. I am constantly accusing people of cheating or hacking. Overwatch, and they're not at all. It's just me just being really grumpy.
Sending a message after the match. I saw you.
No.
Screen watching.
I complain at my teammates that the other team.
Okay.
On comms. I don't
so toxic.
Accuse them in text like you prick, you're hacking.
Those were the good old days, like Halo 3 time when people would be sending messages on the Xbox dashboard and misspelling everything because you had to go to every letter with the A button.
The amount of people that said they'd had sex with my mother as well was very impressive.
Yeah, it was always surprising. You learned about someone new every day.
I was going to say, Space, we should get him to come and play Hunt with us sometime. Space is naturally gifted with that game.
I used to play a little bit of that.
I got into that because of the engine of Star Citizen. I was kind of like looking for more information and stuff, and then and now there's this kind of really cool divergent between the two where you can kind of look back at what the engine was and what it is now, and there's this huge disparity between
I was the same with Evolve until they got rid of it.
Evolve.
Well, that's an interesting thing, so let's follow that for a bit of a lead. There, as CryEngine goes, there are not a lot of developers for that, as a percentage, right? And one of the things I was talking to some people about the other day is how far, and this is a speculatory thing, right? So don't feel like you're beholden to this, but do you think we'd be further along now if we were, say, making it on the Unreal Engine? Because there is just more developers. I think one of the reasons they've struggled is because there's just not enough staff that work on the Crytek engine.
So it's my opinion that we wouldn't be as far along now. But if they had started now with the engines that they have now available, they'd be able to make progress on Star Citizen quicker.
Yeah.
But they're still going to have to write a huge amount of the game from scratch, whatever engine they use.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Now, is CryEngine the best engine for it? probably not. But whatever that Star Citizen finish with will be a pretty good engine for Star Citizen. And yeah, if they had started with Unreal 5, maybe that would have been a better idea. But it wasn't available then.
Yeah.
And yeah.
The other way to look at it too is they probably wouldn't have that relationship with Amazon that they have since Amazon brought the CryEngine. So that's probably going to bear a lot of fruit down the line as well for both companies.
It's a good point though. What Bored said about just the idea of the engines and the fact that it wasn't available back then. I was looking at Starfield recently, talking about how they do their planet creation stuff, and the way that Todd Howard was talking about it looked a lot like the stuff they had developed for Star Citizen, in that they had height maps that were separated into grids that could be mixed and matched across the planet's surface. And I'm like, they've been working on this too. It's not like CIG was the only studio that's been doing this stuff over the years for things like Planet Tech or things like networking and stuff like that. Other engines have been progressing as well. So it's easy to forget that.
I'm expecting to be disappointed by Starfield. I'm looking forward to it, but it's obviously they haven't been developing it for that long.
I think 7 years now.
Yeah.
They started in 2016.
But they're calling it a new engine, but it's not actually a new engine. It's just the old
It's an
one.
upgraded creation engine. Yeah.
Exactly. So rather than, they should have just bit the bullet and got a whole new engine. Like just upgrading something that's got a terrible foundation.
Are we talking about?
It sounds like Star Citizen.
See what you did there. The other thing I was going to say too is there was a game that got shut down recently called Scavengers, and that actually had server meshing in it. So we are seeing these little bits of tech in different games now. So yeah, I kind of agree with what you said just before. So yeah.
Do we have any successful Lumberyard engine games? There's that New World one, isn't there? That's Lumberyard.
Yeah,
It's probably the closest, and it has really good sound. But yeah, I think New World would be the only one. Well, how many I think they've closed? Like Amazon's closed down one or two now. Like they had that MMO one.
Yeah, they've had to shutter a couple.
Crystal Dynamics are making a game in. I read about it today. Are making a game with Amazon, the new Tomb Raider. So that might be on Lumberyard. I don't know what engine it's going to be on. But it's between Crystal Dynamics and Amazon, and Crystal Dynamics is owned by Embracer Group. So it's obviously some kind of loan out agreement. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they just got bought too. They just got traded over to Embrace, right?
Yeah. So that'll be interesting if it bears fruit down the line. Anyway. All right, let's talk about the game then, because we've been doing this for 22 minutes and haven't really talked about the game. So, what would you want to talk about specifically with Star Citizen? Do you want to talk about this year? Do you want to talk about where the game's been? Like, what is a draw card for you in Star Citizen terms?
I don't really mind. I like talking about Star Citizen. I always talk about just whatever other people want to talk about. For the most part, that's what I do on my streams. I am excited about some of the stuff coming in 2023. Obviously, we've seen quite a few delays with 3.18.
Well, Space just did a video on that, didn't you, Space? You did the gameplay features, I believe you're looking forward to coming this year.
This year, yeah?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah.
So, hey, do you want to go over that real quick? Like what you're looking forward to, Space? And then maybe Bored can ping off that.
Oh, man. There's a lot. But I guess, like why don't we just start by talking about resource management? So I think that's probably one of the bigger things coming this year. And it's got a few features sort of tied to it. So there's a lot to talk about there.
It's going to take them a while, too, because they've got to go through and convert every single ship in the game. So that's an interesting point, because I was thinking the same thing, and I'm still of the mindset. I still expect there to only be 2 or 3 ships, the Hull A, maybe the Hammerhead, and something else. But also something they were talking about, I think about a year and a half ago, when they were talking about the work they were doing to make the system work. They were specifically pointing out how much work they were having to put in to get other ships ready for it. So it's still a little bit confusing, the messaging on it, which I'm sure it will be up until basically PTU, but I'm wondering how many ships maybe we can expect to have any functionality this year. I think the other thing is, if you look at the 2 ships they're starting with a fairly large one and a small one. I think they're going to try and get like baselines and then spread out from there. because a lot of it will be number tweaking, right? And so you can kind of copy paste and then move it to a more individual ship.
With what we're actually getting with the resource management system this year, what do you actually think that's going to entail? We obviously we know it's sort of like the circuitry of ships, and they've talked about gravity and damage control and engineering and life support. But what do you actually think we're getting with it this year?
I think it'll be all of that.
Okay,
but just for the ship that they have it ready for. So I think we'll have gravity control, life support control, power management through the relay system, and fire hazards.
That was the one I was going to say.
I think maybe the one that I'm a little unsure about is the role assignments. Being able to actually assign someone, say, hey, you have access to this kiosk or you have access to this system. Because they've talked about that in regards to resource management, but it still feels a little advanced for their UI.
Yeah, do you think the permission system is supposed to be part of the resource management system as well, then?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. You could technically do that through the party system too, if you think about it.
Yeah, so, I mean, are people thinking that we're going to have physical components as part of the resource management system, or is it just
I don't think so.
Are reliant on the resource management system?
I think they're two separate things that work together.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they would make more noise about the physicalized components if they were included, but we might have a lot of time. I think we'll have a lot better idea in a month.
That's true.
We've had a lot of time too.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think they'll expand that too, because we've seen footage from years ago where they had blowouts as well, and like the whole room gets vented out as well. And I know that's a part of the fire system as well. Like you can, so I think maybe I'm wondering if we'll see stuff like that, because I think, like you said the other day when you're on the captain's table, you were hoping that they could have missions where you actually board and like go through a ship and empty it out space. And I was sitting there thinking, yeah, that would actually be really awesome. Like you could have essentially, and like imagine you remember the Starfarer missions back in the day, that where you clear it out and then you can take the Starfarer and sell it or whatever like that. I think that would be
like the 890 jump.
Exactly, but I think when I think about that, it's also a little bit behind the NPCs not being so derpy. And we're really, again, it's another server meshing thing, which just keeps happening, isn't it? Like it's this whole damn wall analogy, that there's certain things being held back. But yeah.
So is the resource management something that you're interested in, Bored, as a gameplay aspect? Is that something that you have been looking forward to, or are you more?
So for me, it represents engineering, damage control, and true multi-crew. And what's one of the things that sold me on Star Citizen was multi-crew gameplay. So it's so incredibly important. It's potentially more important than server meshing is. I mean, obviously they're both almost. I suppose they're equally as important because you need them both to have the game of Star Citizen in the way they want it. There's loads of elements of Star Citizen. You go, what's the most important? Well, all of them together working. Yeah, so I think, but it's not just the sort of resource management system I'm looking forward to this year. It's sort of, I suppose, evolutions of the cargo refactor as well. I think it's like ship scale tractor beams, larger cargo containers, the hull C, cost time associated with the loading, unloading. I just think that adds so much to the game because it starts to give it a much bigger economy.
Yeah,
and
I always
speaking of
kind of look at the roadmap and stuff like that and see what ships are coming, because that often points at the gameplay that's coming too. Like their Legionnaire, for example, was scheduled to come out roundabout Invictus, but we don't have hacking, and I think it's a required thing for the Legionnaire. You see, but I don't know. What do you go? How do you like? I know you just read shitload space, but like, how do you? How do you ascertain what you think is coming? I guess what my question is.
I'm never really sure. I mean, I guess like it's usually just a combination of it's like how impressions work with ads, I guess. Like the first time you see something, it registers in your head, but you don't actually pay attention to it. And then you see it a couple more times and you're like, oh, okay, this is a thing. I can go buy that. Yeah, so like I see something in the monthly report, and then maybe somebody mentions it in like a Spectrum post, and then maybe there's work going on in the progress tracker. We're seeing it on ISC. Like you start to get an idea of, okay, this is definitely in their wheelhouse for the next couple quarters, but you can't really tell specifics ever. I think. I don't know, Bored. What about you?
Yeah.
So they like to change up what they're working on and reprioritize stuff. I find that quite frustrating when I'm quite excited about something. I know that CIG's staff can find it quite frustrating as well. I remember having a interview with Aaron Roberts in 2018 and talking to him what he was most excited about for the end of that year, and he was most excited about land claim gameplay that they had been working on and getting it into the game. And it wasn't sort of like the base building, but it was supposed to be the exploitation of resources and actually deploying land claims and a variety of other stuff. And that just got entirely reprioritized out. We still haven't seen that. So
on the land claims things, I know it's a little slight tangent, but the someone there has been working on manufacturing gameplay. You can see it, and the reason, sorry, Pioneer is the link, the land claims, but
okay.
Someone is working on that, because we also saw the lines of code for the Argo MCV. So someone in there, and obviously the in the Vulture and the Reclaimer now, you can craft those multi-tools and tractor beam attachments.
Oh,
so
if yeah, I'm so excited to see if they run with that level of crafting a bit more, and there's more ships that can craft small items and then munitions and things like that, and then it sort of scales up to maybe even components and things like that. That's what I'm super excited about eventually having in the game. I love the idea of some level of crafting like what we have with the multi-tool attachments and multi-tool, just sort of expanded out.
There is gameplay connotations to certain things though, so they'll have to think about that. Like for one, if you can craft weapons, it becomes a problem, because people, if you have more resources, you just overpower the other people. So weapons and components might not be where they go, but really basic stuff, it won't be a problem. So I don't know. There are design problems they'll have to look at, but they've obviously, like, I trust the people that are working on this. Like
when you're talking about base building in Pyro, base building in Pyro, got two orgs at war, and they're fighting over resources in the Pyro system. Yeah, how do you dislodge another organization? And why do you?
A2.
No.
I know what you mean.
You take out their base. Now, for me, the thing is that I see bases as the ability in sectors that are not UEE controlled or are just, there's nothing else pretty much there. There's no infrastructure. You'd want to be able to make fuel and make munitions and that sort of stuff, repair, rearmor, fuel at your bases. And then the way you deal with an enemy org is find their base, push them out of the system by just destroying their base. And that means that even if you have a force that is overwhelming potentially the other one, if you find the other's base first, then it's an attrition war that you can win.
Yeah.
And that's what
fun.
I want to see. So and that's what I sort of want to see with the crafting systems to support that. But that's just my hope.
Yeah. So they did talk about player controlled structures and stuff like that. So that's I think that will be exactly what you're talking about. You'll be someone is holding a player controlled structure and the other team is trying to get them off it. I think they'll be the main ones, but I do think there will be I don't want to say smaller, but like more default, so you can still do refining, you can still do like more the pure resources rather than the actual manufacturing. And I think a lot of the manufacturing stuff, like, because they said that originally the Pioneer was for base building and they moved it to more of a factory thing, and now we know about the Argo MCV. I like a lot of the work I've done when I've talked to the professionals and stuff is they firmly believe that a lot of the like, how you've got the Centurion and the Spartan and stuff like that, the Atlas platform, they're expecting that to bear more fruit. Like those things that you can put on backs of the trucks in the real world, like the J-Wiz and stuff like that, they're expecting those to be buildings as well. So you might get a small thing like that MCV might actually be something just that builds turret emplacements. And you think about that right now, how you've got at Jump Turn, you've seen them putting out the ballista. Like I did that with Space one time, didn't we? Space, we had the ballistas and the Centurions and all that. But what if they were actually constructible instead? That like you actually can build turrets that are manned or automated. and that
Well,
gameplay just goes to another level.
On that line of thinking, I'd be interested in hearing what you guys have to say. I got asked on my stream yesterday when I thought that they might do like the very first implementation of any sort of base building, whether it be like a turret emplacement, like you said, a small portable mining encampment, or even full buildings. When you guys think we'll see the first of that? Obviously, you don't have to tie your name to it.
And that's why it's really hard, because like we can tell someone's been doing it or at least planning it, but they've never talked about it. They've never shown anything on the roadmap. They've never, but someone has to be for those.
Yeah, and there's no real, like there's the numbers we give out here obviously have no merit or proper proof behind the numbers. It's just sort of feeling thing, but it's interesting.
Well, it's kind of like you said in your video that I watched yesterday. Like, you feel this year is going to be the year of gameplay, and I kind of watched that and I said, I hope you're right, but my feeling is it's still kind of locked behind that whole server mesh and getting those foundations in place.
Yeah, I don't want to say it is the year of gameplay. I think that there are good signs for gameplay.
No, we've got it in the video now. You said it. You said it in the video.
It is a good year for gameplay.
Okay,
I will not say it is the year for gameplay. That just like last year, I think they are doing a lot better on promoting gameplay in the game as opposed to just adding in different techs and tools. But
yeah, I agree with that. I think there's going to be a lot more gameplay this year. But I mean, that's an easy thing to say because of we're still waiting on 3.18 from last year. So the last year was pretty sparse for gameplay. Even though that 3.17.x patches were good and they had some great stuff in them, just the amount of gameplay that we can potentially get this year is sort of dwarfs that hugely.
Yeah. 3.18 slipping into this year definitely made this year much heavier in terms of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think the other thing when you're talking about base building and stuff, like Clan PM do talk about the Rastar tool that they're using, which will eventually become more player facing for when we build bases.
Yep.
I believe that's still the plan. They're building out obviously outposts and colonial outposts or colonialism outposts and lots of other stuff like that. So I suspect those assets will be all used for some forms of base building.
I just had an epiphany. The way so I did stuff with people on repair and we've kind of worked out how repair is going to work. Like, so if you think of the Crucible, you know that underlying frame every ship has, like when you take off the skin you can see the frame underneath.
Yeah.
So the arms on the Crucible are going to be able to kind of 3D print that. I was thinking that's probably tied with repair because it is kind of a constructing of a vehicle. If you could use that to construct a building, it's the same tech.
Yeah, so then you can salvage buildings as well. Delicious.
Yes, and vehicles and all that stuff. So I actually have just realized it is actually tied to each other. So maybe repair is a form of construction. I didn't even think of it until just then.
I mean, all the systems are all tied to each other as well in some way, and they want to make vehicles and structures and ships all tied together with like the resource management system. But I do like that in Star Citizen where they've gone basically a structure is just an immobile ship.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to item 2.0. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah, I do. That was one of my first informational videos that sort of like was super popular, explaining item 2.0.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
All right. So besides kind of base building, what's some other gameplay features that you're kind of expecting to come down the pipe this year, Board? If you wanted to take a stab at it.
I'm not expecting base building to be this year.
Agreed.
I'll tell you that for nothing. So I suppose bounty hunting 2.0 is something that I'm expecting to see this year. We know that there's been a load of work on a lot of the Tony Zervik stuff, the dynamic universe, but I suppose bounty hunting 2.0 is likely to have tracking of bounties. So basically updating their position, but whether they're NPC or player bounties based on where they've been traveling, what's seen them, are they at a landing zone. You're also able to track the bounties on foot. You'll be able to capture people. I think that tech's pretty much there. I
have a question for you about that. You know how they say that the tracking for the bounty hunting is supposed to be another Moby Glass app?
Yes.
Do you think that they're going to bring in Bounty Hunting V2 before we see a redesigned mobiGlas? And would that mean that they would then have to redo the bounty tracking app again? Or how do you think that will work?
I think we could see Bounty Hunting version 2 before we see an updated mobiGlas app for it. Because the start of like extra bounty hunting stuff is not reliant on that bounty hunting app. Except it would make it a lot better, and they could expand it out even further. But I do expect to also see this year star map updates and mobiGlas and HUD updates. So lots of UI stuff.
Do you think there's just going to be kind of this clash of design with new apps and old apps for a little while until they get the rest of the mobiGlas kind of up to date?
Maybe. I mean, I am expecting some big mobiGlas updates this year, just because of we know they're working on that. They've got a lot of stuff that need to get finalized realistically for Squadron, and then I would expect that to trickle down into the persistent universe. But it's hard to know whether that stuff is finalized and what else they need to put into the persistent universe's mobiGlas compared to the military mobiGlas that you have in Squadron 42, because obviously it doesn't have all the same apps.
It's one's blue and one's green, board. That's it. That's the difference.
Okay, is that
I'm
joking?
All that big defense budget.
Yeah. I was going to say the other gameplays that I've seen come off and on the roadmap has been, so they put the Apollo on the roadmap, so that means medical had to be there somewhere. They had the Crucible at one point, which is repair, which we know is the opposite of salvage. Munching is on there as well, which is the second part of salvage. And the last one was radar, scan, and ping. Well, now we've heard that a lot. We've heard about FPS ping. We've seen footage of that as well. For me, ping is probably, I would really prioritize scanning and ping, especially that really great video you did on it with the probes space. I'd highly recommend that one if anyone hasn't seen that, because once pirates can find people, that default loop is complete. And what I mean by that is, so if a pirate can go out and find someone mining, as an example, they're going to need escorts. Once they need escorts, it also defaultly adds in a bit of bounty hunting and stuff like that. So they can have like kind of like that revenge mission type stuff. So if they can get the revenge mission and the scanner and probing ping stuff in, that whole default loop works, and you'll get a lot of, as they call it, emergent gameplay. So for me, I think it's a really good one to get. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, but
I don't expect to see any ship updates in terms of scanning and ping this year. I do expect FPS and scanning and ping and radar, but I don't know about any updates to the ship stuff because they haven't really talked about that. I would like to see it. I'd like to see that mid-distance scanning making an appearance, but I'm almost not expecting to see that till after Quantum Boost is a thing. I don't really know what their plans are for that kind of stuff.
With the Quantum Boost stuff, so it makes sense that they'd want to have more updated scanning stuff go live with Quantum Boost, so you can do more exploration. You can find some interesting stuff.
What about drones?
It's a good question.
Drones. So, because drones are required for a few things, including Squadron 42. What do you guys think about that? Could that be a possibility this year as well?
There was some bits on the roadmap years ago for drones, including the little personal drone. As far as I'm aware, they've done some early prototyping with drones, which is as far as they've got, and there was some bits they wanted to do with Squadron 42 with them. But from my point of view, they're pretty simple, because they are basically just moving remote turrets, right?
Yeah, they're a remote. They're a remote turret guided ship, essentially, aren't they? So it's just well, that's how I would do it. Again, if I'm pseudocoding it, I would just take the remote turret code and combine it with a ship, and it just, instead of rotating the turret, it just moves the ship. So yeah.
So in answer to your question, maybe.
I remember.
One second, I'm listening. I just need to use the facilities very briefly.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. There was a video. Geez, I don't know if I saw it recently. I don't know if I remember what video it is, but I think it might have been John Crew or somebody on the vehicle team who was talking about the work they were doing in Squadron 42 to make drones work, and he explicitly stated that once we get this working, we will be building it out to also work in the PU, because we need to make sure that they have a very basic functionality that works in the PU if we have that same system driving it in Squadron. So I don't know if that means this year. To be quite honest, I could maybe find that reference somewhere.
Yeah. But
the reason I don't know.
The reason I brought it up was the same kind of answer Board gave. They're not that complicated, and it's kind of like you know how like the stuff with the docking of the Merlin kind of rolled out into docking, and it's rolled into like three. It's like not. It's like a domino effect, right? I just see it as another domino they're waiting because, as he said, if they combine remote turrets and ships, it's another domino that falls.
Yeah, I would love to think that it's not too hard, but I have no way of knowing, and CIG tends to take, I guess, longer on things than people are expecting. We'll
so
put it that way.
there is some problems with the way that kind of Imperium now develop stuff. So it took them a long time before that Star Citizen is quite a long development loop, sort of slow burn game, unfortunately. But the way they're sort of doing stuff now is often they want to have the finalized gameplay or something they see as a more final version before putting it in. They don't like putting placeholders in anymore. And often they also now want to get it into the Squadron 42 dev branch and then develop it a little bit before putting it in the persistent universe. So this sort of adds development time to these sort of loops that, like with drones, in my head, actually pretty simple. Kind of Imperium might want an extra year of development from them in the Squadron 42 branch for putting them in game.
Yeah.
So,
actually, speaking of Squadron 42, like for as long as I can remember, every once in a while you'll say Squadron 42 is 2 years away. I did joke about this the other week when we were in the summit, but it's so true. Like it's every time. I think you are the person that coined that kind of phrase, that it was always 2 years away. So with what we're seeing now, I kind of think we might see it at what I'm predicting, right, is we have LA this year with CitizenCon, and I think we'll have Manchester next year. And I'm half expecting at LA they're going to tell us that we'll get some form of release or test for Squadron 42 within the next 12 months. So I'm kind of predicting something at Manchester next year. What do you guys think? If you had to guess your best bet, considering the levels were kind of finished at the end of last year, according to the roadmap, you know, so the levels, a lot of stuff is starting to go into polish as far as I can see. We're seeing a lot more things, new gameplay roll over to the PU, which tells me a lot of the designers have kind of, you know, starting to wrap up stuff that they've been doing on Squadron, and so they're now moving them onto designs for Star Citizen. So I'm starting to see things that are moving people around because things are starting to wrap up and move. You know, we're seeing things like data blocks go in. You don't tend to do HUD stuff towards things that are being finalized. So I don't know. The signs I'm seeing are telling me that the things are starting to, you know, we're getting into that last 10-20% type of area. I don't know. What your thoughts is what I'm asking. Sorry for the long-worded question.
right, can I
consolidate it into a question? Yeah. So
in a concise way, yes.
Yeah, I did an algorithm there. Sorry. So when do you think Star Citizen is going to release? As in Squadron 42. Squadron 42. Sorry. When do you think it is? So sorry, I said Star Citizen. I meant to say Squadron 42 because I think it potentially could be at CitizenCon end of next year.
I think that is a very good call. That maybe at CitizenCon next year there might be some big announcements, and less likely to be big announcements this year.
And one of my theories behind that also is because if you're going to release the game, you're going to want to do it with all the people that worked on it. So releasing it, the advantage of releasing it at LA is you get all the publicity of, you know, the actors and stuff like that. But if you release it at Manchester, then everyone that worked on it can turn up. They can the people at Frankfurt can come over via train. There's a lot less developers in the Americas by comparison. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I do think it's going to be more of the start of a traditional advertising campaign rather than an actual release. We could see a hard date. That's what I'd hope for. but that is something that I'm still not sure about.
Did you
So
know?
you're expecting more of a 2025 release?
Let's hope, eh?
Because they've done ads the last couple of years as tests on YouTube too. I don't know if you guys knew that. Like the market department has been prepping for things as well. So I don't know. I'm just seeing little signs here and there. I could be completely wrong. It could just be all smoke and mirrors. But to me, there's just little signs that are telling me. Well, put it this way: we're at least getting closer, right? Hopefully, you know.
That is true.
Yeah.
Be thankful. We are getting closer.
So yeah. I'm trying to think of other things that are coming up this year. Are you planning to go to LA at all, Bored? Or you reckon that's still trouble for you because it's too far to travel?
It's far and expensive, and I might be able to get better coverage from staying at home and just covering it. So maybe there are a few possibilities. I might just send my editor. I might just send Zin. She was really potentially excited about going. I might go, or I might not. I don't know. That's so far in the future, isn't it?
I'm getting a lot of pressure to go myself, and it's a day's trip just to get there. So like I leave.
Oof.
I like if I leave at 7 a.m. I get there at 7 a.m. It's that type of thing. So yeah, it's a long trip.
At least you don't lose the day, right? You jumping back in time.
Yeah, but then I lose it when I come back. So I lose it. Either
Yeah, and you also lose it from catching up on jet lag.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm used to.
Do you get jet lag from a day's journey? I've never been jet lagged. I've never traveled for long distance on a plane.
You kind of just think about it though. You're sitting in a chair for 24 hours, so you kind of get a bit bored. You get fidgety. You get a bit stiff.
That sounds like me playing games.
It messes you up. It's like it's not even just the sleep schedule. It's like your eating schedule. Your body gets confused. You feel just like it's miserable. I hate it. I hate jet lag.
Yeah. Well, he travels between Turkey and USA a lot, so he'd know a lot more than I anyway. So,
I'm over it. Just love please take me there button. We've been doing the plane thing for a while. When are we gonna beam me? Get me over there. I don't want to fly.
I'll ask a more generic question here. What's your favorite ship in the game, and what's the ship that you're most looking forward to? I guess like what's your favorite one now, and what's the one you're looking forward to?
I love the Mercury Star-R5, like by quite a huge margin. I think it looks beautiful. It's got some fantastic multi-crew gameplay. It's got the promise for data running in the future. It's button setup and lighting and little vents and little secrets.
You
They're
like
all cool.
the vents? I can't get past that it's all on stilts. That drives me mental.
Have you done any boarding fighting in the Mercury Star-R5 in 3.18?
No, I have not.
It's hell because there's little goblins in the vents.
Just popping out, taking shots.
Gremlins. Yeah. I think I think every ship I see now, I see design flaws though too. Like because that was meant to have it's got no windows. It was meant to have a second entrance. It was meant to have. They said in the concept it was meant to have a skylight in that main room.
You say it was meant to have a second entrance.
Yeah.
What do you mean is it needs a second entrance?
Well, that too. Yeah.
So I
don't like the little.
It was meant. Did they ever say it was meant to have one?
What's with the mini? Oh, maybe they never said they meant to, or maybe they were saying they were going to add one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that it should have one. Like it needs one.
Yeah. And the mini lift, what's with that? Why isn't it stairs? You look at what they did with the Corsair recently. Why don't they do something similar to that just for the Mercury Star-R5? Maybe they're learning. Maybe it's all a part of the learning thing.
Oh, you mean the Corsair's elevator?
No, so the Corsair has, you go out into where they park the rover, and it's got this small set of stairs that kind of go sideways.
Oh, yeah.
Similar to that, but for the Mercury Star-R5, like they could have had stairs that literally retract in and go flat or something like that. There was just no point to have such a short elevator, and I worked it out. It could have been 5 steps high. Like that's how short it is. They didn't need to have an elevator.
Accessible, would it? Wouldn't have been as accessible.
What do you mean accessible?
Well, what if you've been injured? You have lost the use of your legs from jumping from too high a height. How are you getting up those stairs? You're not. You're not my friend.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Drake pilots.
I'll see you. I'll give you that. All right. Fair enough. But
Remember that, Corsair owners.
yeah. But essentially,
MSR
stairs
owners
do
are gonna
act.
laugh at you.
Stairs do act like a ramp though, so I think you'd be able to hobble up there at least. But I don't know.
You say that to wheelchair users. I dare you. Stairs up.
Okay, but by that count,
You'll
how do
be
you,
fine.
how do you get up the ramp at the back of the ship then? So you can't even get to there. So yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. All right, and what about Mercury Star Runner in the ship at the moment? Do you have the Night Runner, by the way, the skin?
Yes, I did because I did the mini game. Yeah.
Got a lot of people that are very jealous when I pulled that out. But
Oh, we haven't had one of those like little website games in a while, huh?
it
I
has been a
know.
while.
I really like it when they do a good one. I even liked Hyper Vanguard Force. I thought it was
Love
cool.
that. Yes. What about
They've done some cool stuff.
So is there a ship you're looking forward to then that's not in the game right now?
Yeah, loads, all of them. I've got a Javelin. I mean, it's sort of in the game now, but I want it flyable. The Pioneer would be amazing to have in game because I can do base building. The Perseus I love because it just looks beautiful, and I like a nice big brawler of a ship.
Yeah, our friend Badges is a big fan of the Perseus. We crowdfunded him one on one of the live streams one day, got him one. So yeah, I don't know about you, Space, but I can picture Board with his Pioneer writing like on a moon somewhere, just writing Board Gamer from, so you can read it from space.
I'm not as exciting as that. I would want to build a base for efficiency rather than for the lols.
Yeah.
Like I'd find it hard to do it even for advertising. Like it's a great idea to write board.
No
gamer.
NordVPN base.
Or NordVPN, yeah, I'll do it like a. So I mean, I was thinking about doing that in 3.18 because with Pez, I could literally write something on a planet, just like my NordVPN link, and see how long it takes for CIG to go. Nope, we're not allowing that. Nope,
can't do that. Too many papers to sign. I'm really excited for the Vulcan. I can't wait for that ship to come in again.
Looks like Master Chief. You seen? Look at a picture of the front
Vulcan
of the Vulcan. The front of the Vulcan.
Hold on, I gotta pull it up.
And remember Halo while you're looking at it.
I had a question that's left my head.
Yeah, straight on. The color helps too. The color definitely makes it.
It's Master Chief's face.
I mean, hey, however we can have Halo live on at this point, I need it somewhere because I don't know how much you guys follow the general gaming industry stuff, but Microsoft just had huge layoffs and a lot of it hit the Halo studio, which has been suffering already, and it's just not looking good for the franchise. So
there's a lot of people calling.
You hit a soft spot there, Board.
There's a lot of people there calling for them to give it. They've had 4 hits at a Halo and they've failed on every single front. So there's a lot of people wanting another.
I don't agree that they failed.
I haven't played the co-op of Infinite yet, which I do want to do. But I played every other Halo game, I've enjoyed a good portion of them co-op.
Sorry, didn't they cancel the co-op for Infinite?
No,
they delayed it.
They delayed it. All right.
Yeah,
it's available now.
Okay, I'm trying to remember the question I had, but I've forgotten it. But it's all good. Is there anything else you want to ask, Space, or we might wrap it up?
What do you think's going to happen with the updates this year? How do you think they'll come out? Well, do you think 3.18 could become the Q1 patch, and then they just reshuffle from there?
Yeah. So I think we'll see 3.18 live by middle of February, but I'm hoping it's going to still make a January release, although I think that's looking less and less likely every day as January ticks away. I do think what we'll see is most likely 3.18 and 3.19 this year, and then point patches to replace the rest of the major patches. It's possible we'd have 4.0 by the end of the year, but I'm thinking that even if it's nearly ready, say all the stars align, it's more likely to be a beginning of the 2024 release.
So let's say hypothetical.
I was gonna say my kind of answer to that is like they tried to say that the pairs and the server meshing would be around mid-year. So if we don't see that by then, it's obviously been delayed. So you can kind of tell by mid-year where they're going to be at, I think. But yeah, sorry, Space.
I was going to say, hypothetically, let's say 318 does come out mid-February. Do you think then they would just push 319 to the July patch? Or they still try to get it out?
I think 3.19 is still going to be end of June, early July, whatever.
Okay. Because right now it's currently listed as Q1. So I'm just wondering when they're going to make that. And I guess maybe February 8th.
That's viable. I think it's much more likely we'll see 3.19 Q2.
Almost as much as 318's been pushed back, you'd push the other two back. Yeah, that makes logical sense to me. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they're just waiting for the roadmap roundup to make that clear.
Well, they're all having
8th of February. Not too long to wait.
They're having all those annual meetings, aren't they? So that'll really dictate and set up all their plans for the year. So as Board just said, what was it, February 8th?
February 8th is what they've got it.
Yeah.
We'll get all our answers there.
And we'll also be getting the January monthly report, which will probably...
Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them, but yeah.
Yeah, so we lack context for the year at the moment. We're still working off on what they had the plans for at the end of last year, effectively, and what we're assuming they're working on now, because they haven't really updated the roadmap properly. So it is a weird one for content creators, I think. So what do you expect them to get done this year? Well, we've sort of talked about that, but that could all change.
Yeah.
For me,
it could change on a dime.
For me, a big focus that I would like to see on this year, and I think they are going to do that, is the new player experience. For the longest time, there was a rant I went on Spaces. How long ago was that now? About the lore system. I went on about that thing. It took 2.5 years. They're doing it next patch, right? They're sending it back to level 3 instead of level 1. But then the sheer number of times I took new players in, and they ended up in Klesher, and they just quit, never played the game ever again.
Okay.
Because they got taken away from me, and I couldn't directly guide them, so they were completely lost. And you're in this, you got to go into these mines and down into these caves, and it's just like they're repetitive, and they didn't know where they were going. It just,
gotta be a rugged criminal.
Yeah, it just made it very difficult for them, already being very disorientated, and they got ripped out of what they'd just learned and put in a completely new system, and they were utterly lost.
I mean, execute. Those new players got to learn. If you're going to move 10 meters when the security tells you to stop when you're already flying at 900 meters per second, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Especially if you're in a reclaimer. Like, you can just stop on a dime in that thing. No, I think...
Those freaking dicks.
You've just got to clip a building. You've got to go too low at ArtCorp and touch the ground. You used to get a crime stat. Like, it was just... Like, I understand it was for testing purposes, but when they turned it on, but at what point did they forget to turn it back off? Like, so yeah, I don't know. I went on and on about it, but hopefully we got a message through to them at some point, but we'll see what happens.
3.18 does a lot to address incorrect crime stats.
Yeah.
And more interesting things to do in prison. Although, as you said, if you're having a new player taken away from them learning the game to go to Klesher, that is still a bit soul destroying.
I'd love there to be like a button on that main console somewhere that if you are like, it's your first week in the game, you can just go up and press it and it respawns you back where you started, because that would just fix only for a short period, right? So it's not indefinite.
Yeah, a new account sort of amnesty.
Yeah,
I get what you mean.
It's a sticky slope, and I can already hear Space. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just so frustrating for those new players. Like, if they're literally quitting the game, you got to think of all, like, and it's got to be in CIG's benefit to keep people around, keep them invested in the game. They'll buy more ships. There's all those follow-ons that they lose. Like I remember talking to a guy recently, Space, and it took him 45 minutes to get out of the hab. It gets worse.
I'm sorry, wait.
It gets worse. It gets worse. It took him 3 days to find the Robert Space Industries website because he was looking for StarCitizen.com.
I mean, I think CIG needs to do a certain amount to help people, but like, there's a point at which it's just not worth. I mean, if 45 minutes to get out of the hab, man.
Well, because you've got to
That's-
hold down the
you-
F key, and in most games it's E, not F. And if you just tap the F, what he said was when he noticed it was he was hitting all the keys and looking for things to change, and he pressed the F key, and that's when the crosshair came up, and he went, "Oh, what's that?" And then he eventually figured out you had to hold it, and that's how he figured out again, because it never came up and told him, or if it did,
Yeah.
gamers don't read. So
Yeah, and I think that's part of what they're working on now with the new player experience improvements they've talked about. But still, at the end of the day, I mean, like 45 minutes is a long time.
Well,
You can't do it for 5 minutes. Go look up a quick YouTube video.
yeah, well, Paul was saying the rumor at the moment is that the law guys are moving on to tutorials because they're moving on to different works. You know, they talked about spinning down the amount of law posts they do. Is apparently that's so they can work on tutorials and stuff. So if that's true, it's a big plus. For
I think
me.
the game needs it for sure. Like they need AR markers that can highlight things that people can interact with. They need the ability to scan so you can see the things. Like all that stuff is necessary, and I think it'll help a lot. But like CIG is running an alpha, and they need to keep working on features. So like I'm like go this far for the new player experience. Make sure it's good. But don't go this far until we're hitting beta and it's more permanent.
Well, it's kind of like what I said before. Like they do have a staffing problem. There's not enough people to go around. Like they've only just got it's a couple of 3 months ago now. They just got their 4th community manager. What was her name? Galactica. You know, so they've got another extra person to help there, and you can already see they're reaching out to more people, getting more content creators in and stuff like that. So hopefully as people comes in, this kind of snowballs and we get someone that's more dedicated to new players coming in. And I think they need to communicate better, not just to us externally, but also internally. I would like to see them, you know, marketing, talking to QA as an example, like the community management team working with marketing, because sometimes, like what happened with the info on the Spirit at CitizenCon, like a huge, massive oversight that just should never have been missed because it's blaringly obvious. But yet, if someone at the community team, if they'd just gone, "Here, can you guys have a quick once over this and let us know?" they would have gone, "Oh, you've made this huge mistake." And what is that? A 1 minute email? I don't know. So
yeah.
I don't know, Board, do you think there's anything they can do to improve from your perspective?
Always. There's always more stuff they can do to improve constantly. And the problem is it's really hard to work out what Cloud Imperium's sort of priorities are at any given time. And as we said, they keep on changing. Them hiring and their hiring practices, they are obviously doing a big mixture of that at the moment as well. So they're getting a lot of junior devs and that sort of stuff, and they're having them train up by doing racetracks and some sort of like smaller locations and things, which I actually think is a pretty good idea. But that's led them into sort of how much time's being dedicated now to the racing stuff. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it does add lots of interesting points of interest, and it does help with the flight model and a lot of that sort of stuff. But Cloud Imperium can always improve. There's always something to be critical of. And that's not something that Cloud Imperium should be worried about or shy away from. It's something they should embrace.
Yeah. No, I think the other thing is you got to realize a lot of the tools that they've spent time doing that also means they're custom tools, so they do need to spend that time to train people. So yeah. All right, I think we'll kind of wrap it up here. Is there anything you'd like to hear from people in the comments board? Anything that you'd like to hear from our community?
How much they like me, how good I am. I'd like to hear that. I'd like to.
This guy.
You've just got the opposite in the comments. I'd
like to hear them that they've donated and subscribed.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
So I would say our audience as a whole is probably the more hardcore audience. So it's more smaller, more niche, but they are very, very dedicated people, our community. So they are a lot more long term, generally speaking.
I'm always interested to know what people think is actually going to be released this year. What do they think is viable to be released? What do they want to be released? What do they think Cloud Imperium's focuses and targets are? Because that's an interesting thing to talk about just before they release their sort of tone for the year in 8th of February. And also you can then compare it like, well, the reason I expected that was because Cloud Imperium were talking about it. And then why are they not doing that? So
yeah, I think that's one of the big benefits of the roadmap now. We can kind of, even if they put it on and take it off, you can at least see their lines of thinking. So yeah. What about you, Space? Is there anything you'd like to hear in the comments below?
I'm similar.
Yeah.
The way I see it, we've got like at least 3, I would say 4 actual career paths developing in a major way this year. We've got, well, actually 5. We've got racing.
Mm-hmm.
We might have passenger transport. We might have engineers. We might have bounty hunting V2. We're going to have a big cargo refactor, so that affects cargo haulers. And then what am I missing?
Well, the other 3 we brought up were drones, healing, and repair, and munching. Obviously, is the other part of salvage. So they're all potential.
I exclude those because I don't think medical will see anything big. I honestly don't think drones will be in there, but I do think that a ship tug, or rather just like a tug of some sort coming with the SRV, will also be a possible way to get paid. So we're seeing careers like popping left and right in the game, and I'd love to hear in the comments what people think we would see overall in terms of career paths this year.
I agree with you on the SRV, actually, because in a weird turn of phrase, that's like the starter repair, isn't it? Where you can just drag someone back to a station and they repair at the station. So, yeah, I'm going to see that.
Yeah, and like you're talking the SRV, because this is kind of an immersive sim style with these features. You're going to be able to drag around mineable asteroids, salvageable ships.
It's the ultimate utility vehicle.
Yeah, so that there's a lot of possibilities there too.
I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here, Board. I'd like to hear from our community if they'd be kind of interested in you doing a Fix My Fleet at all, just so we can get a gander at what ships you've brought. Would you possibly do that if we got enough people, or would that be too stressful for you?
Yeah, we could do. I mean, I've got multiple accounts, and I've got I've got lots of referral ships. So although I've only spent $3,500, I've probably got more like $15,000 worth of dollars worth of ships.
So there's a YouTuber I'm friends with. I won't say their name, but they've actually got 6 accounts. And just to give you an idea, the last time I looked at their subscribers, they were over 400,000. So that's bigger than you and Morph combined.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he had 6 accounts. He had pirate accounts. He had like Krakens and Idrises on every account. It was nuts. And I'll tell you after the show the biggest account I've ever seen, and it's like, so you see those little reviews with I spent 21,000 on Star Citizen. Doesn't compare. I'll just say that right now. I'll tell you after the show. It's ridiculous some of the account sizes I've seen. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool to see fleets of content creators, because they are usually very different because of what you mentioned, like a lot of referral stuff. And it was the same with Spaces and Astropubs when we looked at his, that there was just all these ships that he'd brought for giveaways and stuff like that. So they had very inflated accounts compared to most people. So
currently is. I have way too much stuff on my account, to be honest.
Yeah. And I'd also like to get you back for a deep dive episode. So if there's a topic that you can think of, and maybe someone in the comments can suggest that as well, is a topic that you'd like to deep dive into. We do a lot of speculation. I've seen you do speculation in the past, and I think in a group atmosphere, it really gets a lot of the juices flowing. So yeah, I really love, and you get these epiphanies of things like what I had before, where I was talking about repair and manufacturing working together, because you listen to other people and they kind of trigger things in your head. But yeah, so if you can think of a topic you'd like to do, I'd love to get you back for that at a future date.
Yeah, no worries. I'd certainly be up for that. We'll just do a hot topic at the time.
Yeah, that's it. That works as well. All right. With that, then I'll do the usual spiel of if you like this video, subscribe, ring the notification bell. We've had a lot of people telling us they've not been getting the videos, so make sure you ring that bell. Makes a big difference. Extra mile on Patreon, memberships, Twitch, all that type of stuff. You know I'm terrible at self-promotion. I'll kind of leave it there. Where can people find you on the internet web space?
SpaceTomatoGaming.com. Just send you everywhere.
Yeah, I was giving Badges crap yesterday about the beard, but I've just noticed yours starting to grow one in too. I might have to give you some. Yeah.
Oh, this I haven't shaved.
Yeah, right. I was going to say rate your beard, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, Bored. Well, that's, if you see the episode, we were really laying into Badges. It was terrible. Anyway, where can we people find you on the internet, Bored?
On the YouTubes, youtube.com/BoredGamerUK, and like discord.gg/BoredGamer. Just type in BoredGamer or BoredGamerUK. I'll typically
it pops up. Yeah,
you'll find me.
What do you classify yourself as? Do you classify yourself as like a general knowledge base, or like Like, what would you say your speciality is? If I had to ask.
Typically say news. Typically news, but I mean, at one point I would like to be one-stop shop for almost everything Star Citizen, but it is primarily news content at the moment.
You're going to pull in other people, have other content creators like work with you, or to pull that off?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of want to start doing that again. I did that originally when I started, and then became quite insular, especially around COVID time, and sort of just working with my own stuff, especially when I got my editor, because I was like, well, she can learn how to edit, and eventually we'll do a load of stuff and content together. But I do want to be a bit more sort of back with the other content creators and sort of do a load of work with them.
Yeah. No, I know. Going back to the bipolar stuff, I can really relate, because there are times where you just don't want to. You just don't want to do anything.
Well,
so I can relate.
That's
to
one of the things. So sort of, it's just the erratic sort of nature of I'm a bit chaotic with my schedules and stuff. That's why I like doing content. I sort of work at my own pace. I can do a load of hours in a day, but then I can go and have a nap if I want, or I can just take a day off if I want, and then do 2 videos the next day. So
that's it. I've done like 5 videos in 4 days, so I can totally relate. So yeah. All right. Yeah, I've had a great couple of days. No, I won't have to do a video for a week though, but it'll be good. All right. With that, he's been Space Tomato. He's been Bored Gamer. I've been Execute, and we'll catch you in the next one. Say goodbye, guys.
goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
You guys are terrible. All right. Thank you.